Hey everybody, welcome to Drive Thru Review 517. Today we're going to take a look at America, the party game where being close counts. This is a new release from Bezier Games coming out right about now, right about Gen Con time. And it's very much like a game that I played last year called Terra. This was designed by Friedemann Friese and published also by Bezier Games. So America is very much like that game of Terra if you've played that, or another game called Fauna. And what this is sort of a trivia game, but it has some kind of cool mechanics behind it. So it's not really overly complex or anything with those mechanics, but it's got kind of Euro-y types of mechanics. I don't really know how else to explain that. So let's take a look at how the game works. It's much like Terra, and then I'll give you my thoughts on America. Okay, here you can see all the components that you get in America. The first thing to note here is the board. Of course, this is a map of the United States of America. There are also two different tracks here. You have a year track up at the top here, going from 1492 all the way to 2015. And then you have a number track down here going from 0 all the way to a billion. This map actually is double-sided. If we take a look here, you can actually see there are the abbreviations for the states on this side. If you flip it over, you can play the extra hard side, especially for Americans, supposedly. These are the states without any abbreviations, so you don't have to, you have to know the names of the states on this side, whereas this side, this will give you some clues in terms of, you know, some of the answers that might come out. So players will also get these nice chunky cubes in whatever their chosen color. And then you're going to play the game over 6 rounds. And so the start player is actually going to take this box of trivia cards. And you can see here we've got a divider in the middle, and you can actually take a look at this box and you take a look and flip it around either way. And being America, you may have some questions about pizza, you may have some questions about beer. So you can also see here, the start player will take a look at this and say, okay, the year first tastes great, let's filling ad. So the first time that commercial was on TV, and the state drinks most of its own brewed beer, and the number of bottles of beer that started on the wall. That's kind of a funny one. And then on this side we have some different things about pizza. The opening of the first Pizza Hut, that's the year. And so you'll take and look at this and say, okay, let's do the beer one, and that's what we'll do. And then players will try to answer each of these 3 questions, or, in a little twist, guess whether or not players, how accurate they have been, which I'll explain in a minute. But just to kind of give you an idea of a little bit of the differences, which is this whole mechanic here is a new difference between Terra. The types of sort of questions in trivia are a little bit more American based. So you've got pizza, you've got apple pie, obviously. You've got Niagara Falls, a location indigenous to America. And you've got Toy Story. So you've got some pop culture references here. You've also got the space shuttle. You have roller coasters. You have White Castle, gross. You have Five Guys, awesome. And you have Old Faithful. So you've got landmarks, you've got pop culture, the Super Bowl, all kinds of different stuff. So there's a lot more variety in the types of trivia questions in this game compared to something like Terra, which was a much more historical types of trivia, where this is, you know, pop culture, food, TV shows, all kinds of stuff like that. So let's, for example, take one of my favorite movies, is One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. We're going to be trying to figure out the year the film was released, the location of the film, which state, and then also sort of an unrelated, kind of related question, films that won all major Oscars. So the number of films that have won all the major Oscars. And so that's not necessarily related to One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, but it kind of is. So that's kind of a nice little, you know, trick they can do with these mechanics here. So starting with the player to the left of the start player, you're going to take your color cubes and then try to guess it. And I'm just going to guess totally wrong, just because I don't want to reveal any of the answers to any of the trivia questions. So let's say he thought the film took place in Texas. And then the white player would pick that spot. If they thought the number of Oscars, a number of films that won all the Oscars, you go on this track and say the pink player was like 50. Totally not right. And then let's go over to the silver player. They'll say the film was released in 1990. Okay, so you have to put 1 cube out at least. Now at this point, players could pass if they weren't really sure. But let's say instead of the silver playing picking the year, he thought that the white player was right. He knew he was right. He knew that it was filmed in Texas, but, you know, so he got beaten to the punch. Well, he could go ahead and place here a cube adjacent to Texas. So you're not going to score as many points if you're adjacent, but you can at least get close. And that works the same way for all of the tracks, the number tracks, the areas, and also the year. So if you're exact, let's say Texas was the exact answer, the white player would get 7 points, and the silver player here would get 3. And let's say the pink player wasn't right, he got 50. The white player knew that, he was off by a little bit, so the white player came in here, he did 40. The white player would get 7 points again, and the pink player would get 3 points for being adjacent. The silver player, being the wily sucker he is, he figures white knows what he's doing, and so he puts this adjacent to white just so he can get some points out of it. Now the other thing that you can do is actually sort of, in a way, bet or wager on how people have answered. So there's a little no exact or no exact or adjacent track here. So let's take a look at that. So this is the one here for the number track. There's one up here for the areas, and there's another one here for the years. So let's say, just for argument's sake, only pink was up here at 1980. And so the white player going, you know what? I don't think pink knows what they're talking about in terms of the year it was released. So I'm going to go ahead and put no exact or adjacent, which means you're kind of betting your cube, so to speak, that you don't think anybody is exactly right and nobody's adjacent to the right answer. You could also pick no exact. You could say, okay, maybe somebody's adjacent, but nobody's exact. If you get this right here, you get 3 points, and you get 7 points if you get the no exact or adjacent. And there's, like I said, each of those for each of the different areas of states, and then also down here with the number. Now the rules do give you a nice little clarification on some of the adjacencies, like Hawaii and Alaska are adjacent, but they're not adjacent to anything else. Arizona and Colorado are not adjacent, even though they're diagonally touching. And it also gives you the whole confusion that is the Northeast up there. So after everybody's placed and then passed, anything that scores, either exact or no exact, or you get the correct answer up in these boxes, you're going to get these cubes back. So anything that was adjacent or exactly right. Anything that was wrong will just get discarded off to the side. Everybody gets to take 1 cube then out of the supply back into their own supply. And if you ever have less than 3 cubes, you'll draw back up to 3. So you always have 3. So in a consensus, kind of a push your luck, we're like, I could just put a whole bunch of stuff out and score a bunch of points. But if they're all way wrong, you're going to lose a whole bunch of cubes and not have that many for the next question, which maybe you know everything about. And like I said, as players pass this around, this is a start player marker. You're going to take and then move this back behind this screen here. And then now you have 2 more questions to pull from. Okay, so that is America. I think this is a great sort of companion game to Terra. And I think you're going to be able to have sort of a 2-pronged attack, if you will, in your trivia arsenal. Because you might have some folks over that are more prone towards historical questions, you know, maybe a little bit more academic style questions, and that would be where you would maybe break Terra out. Then you might have some folks over that are really into, you know, American history and pop culture and a little bit more general, I guess, mainstream types of ideas, or just American culture types of things in general. So then you might break out America, and then you might, you know, swap back and forth and have just different types of trivia. I do like some of the changes that they've added to this, which is really cool. I think mechanically, I probably like America better, just because it's, you know, they spent some more time developing it and adding kind of the whole wager kind of thing, where you kind of like, okay, I think you're all, you know, you're all full of it. And, you know, so you can kind of do that, because that does kind of come up even in, you know, the old game Terra, where you would do that and be like, I don't think anybody really knows the answer to this question. Or maybe people would be very forthcoming about their lack of knowledge. Or occasionally they might try to, you know, kind of slow boat it and try to beat around the bush, but they actually know the answer. So this kind of adds in a mechanic kind of hooked into that sort of dynamic that can happen with the game. I like the presentation of this. I like the whole idea of, you know, flipping over the map. That's really cool, because then, you know, somebody that, you know, I won't lie, Vermont and New Hampshire, I'll get those confused all the time. And this would kind of, well, to be honest, this kind of helps you learn it. Like, okay, well, I screwed that up. I'm not going to mess that up again. But it's good. It's kind of a nice thing for kids as well. You can say, okay, kids, you know, we're going to flip it over now. You got to remember which state is where and all that good stuff. So yeah, it's a very nice production. I highly recommend it. The family has a great time with this. I played it with, you know, my gamer group, or at least I played Terra. I haven't played this with my gamer group, but So yeah, but both games have gone over very, very, very well, and we have a lot of fun with it. And I've actually, to clarify even more, I've broken this out with multiple family groups as well, all ages and that kinds of stuff. So I highly recommend this game. It's one of those games where you've got the trivia side of it, so that's going to immediately engage people. But then you got people that like, trivia, I played Trivial Pursuit, 1,000 times when I was growing up in the 80s or whatever. And I get that, like I'm with you on that, but this has this little bit of extra to it to keep it fun and keep it interesting and make the social dynamic, a part of the game. And it's not just like, oh, well, Billy's so smart that he knows everything, and so he's just going to win. This, you can kind of play around with that. And again, with this sort of style of, trivia, again, you can have kind of the double attack with Terra and America. You can hit at those certain things. Because, some folks, they know a lot about history, but they don't know nothing about, the Walking Dead TV show or something like that, which is one of the questions in here. But, yeah, so I highly recommend this. Thanks.